Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you a simple tutorial of how to cut a corset with a stylish yoke or keyhole neckline. So if this is something you like, please hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, my shoulder to under bust, and my shoulder to waistline, and my top length. So your top length can be 4 inches or 5 inches after your waistline, or any top length of your choice. Next is to mark your shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder divided by 2 is 7, which is 14 divided by 2. I have 7, but because this dress has a sleeve, you're going to add half inch to it, making it 7.5. So you're going to go down by 1 inch and you're going to draw your shoulder slope. So to draw your shoulder slope, place your ruler from that point you came down by 1 inch to and connect upwards this way. So the next step is to mark out your basic neckline. So for this pattern, we are using the basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches. This neckline will be serving as a guide for this particular tutorial. So next, I'm going to connect. So just like I said, this neckline is serving as a guide for this pattern. Next is to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. So mine is 7. Place your tape starting from that your shoulder point and mark. So whatever you have on your shoulder, go ahead to mark it down at your chest line. This is to make sure that you have a straight line. So I'm going to place and I'll connect, drawing a straight line at that point. So I'll measure from my chest line down to my bust line down to the chest line, and what I have is 1 inch. So this is just to make sure that you have a straight line at that point, and I'll go ahead to rule a line at that point, and that will be my chest line. So the next step is to divide what you have at the armhole part of your pattern into 2 this way, and mark, come in by ½ inch, and you're going to go ahead to mark your bust circumference divided by 4 on your chest line. My bust is 33 divided by 4. I have approximately 8.3. Connect from your bust point to the ½ inch and down to your shoulder. So I'll just go ahead to use my marker to mark out my pattern paper. So after I'm done doing this, the next is to mark your nipple to nipple. And your nipple to nipple is the distance between 2 of your bust points. So mine is 7 divided by 2. I have 3.5. I'll go ahead to mark it all on my bust line, under bust, waistline, and my top length. So after I'm done marking, I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing a straight line. So after I'm done doing this, I will mark my dart. To mark my dart intake, I'll be marking 1 inch at both sides. So for a plus size, go ahead to use 1.5 inches. So after I'm done marking that, I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing a straight line. So I noticed that one part of my line is not straight, but I'll go ahead to correct that later. So place your French curve and connect it this way at your under bust. So just like I said, I went ahead to correct this line, because it was not really straight. So now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this out to make it more visible for you to see. So after I'm done doing this, I'm going to extend my dart legs down to the lower part of my pattern this way. So after I'm done connecting it, this is what I have. So next, you're going to determine how high you want your cup to be. So I'm just going to use 1.5 inches. You can use 2 inches if you want yours to cover very well. So at that point, I'll be drawing a fence line, which will be serving as a guide for me. Now, at that point also, I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I will connect. So remember, my nipple to nipple is 7 divided by 2. I have 3.5. I'll go ahead and mark back my dart intake of 1 inch. So if you're in a plus size, you can go ahead to mark 1.5 inches at that point or more. So there's a way to calculate that. You can also check that out on my main channel, which is Marquis Closet. So I'll go ahead to connect it this way, and this is what I have. So next, I will insert my body measurement for this pattern. At the bust, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. My bust is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. Go ahead to measure your dart intake and add your sewing allowance. So whatever you have on the bust, extend it down to the chest line, or you can even come down by a ½ inch from your chest line. So now I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and replace it. Going down to the waistline, mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and replace it, and also add your sewing allowance. At the lower part, mark your hip circumference and add your sewing allowance. So for this pattern, I'm just marking half because I'm not actually sewing this is a drafting tutorial. So if you want to make yours, you can go ahead and add more than ½ inch to your pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead to connect, and this is what I have on my pattern. So next, we are going to go ahead to alter the neckline and draw out the cup area of the corset. So now, to draw out the cup area of this corset, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll come up by 0.75 inches from my chest line. So your normal corset pattern, you're actually going to go down by ½ inch or leave it at the chest line. But from what we have on the thumbnail, you notice that the cup started on top a bit higher. So after doing that, connect your neckline and place your French curve and connect. You can also go ahead and use your normal corset pattern to draft this out, but for this pattern it was a little high, so that's why I went up. So after connecting it, this is what you have at this part, and I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to draw it out. So next, to draw my other cup, so you're going to go ahead to connect the upper part of your cup this way. After you're done connecting, mark your bust circumference divided by 4. So from your armhole to your bust circumference divided by 4, fold it into 2. You're going to get the midpoint and you're going to connect and you're going to mark. If you don't want to use this method, you can come in from your bust circumference by 1 inch. Now to draw the yoke, I'm going to go ahead to come in by 1 inch from my shoulder line, and I'll go down by 3 inches. So this is not a constant, it totally depends on what you want. So from this point, I'm going to go ahead from the neckline area, I'm going to connect it down to this point this way. After I'm done connecting, I'm just going to go ahead to go in by 1 inch from that point. You can also go in by 1.5, it totally depends on you. So I'll connect from that point down to that point we made at the 3 inches that we came down from, and I'll go ahead to blend this in very well. So at this point, I'll come in by 1.75. You can come in by 2 inches also, because we're going to take part of that, the sleeve part, to join to the sleeve of the dress. That is the armhole part to the sleeve of the dress. So after this, I'm just going to use my marker to outline. So this is my pattern for the upper part, and go ahead to blend the cup part, and I will label my corset and also draw out the yoke area of this pattern. So we'll be moving down to the lower part of this dress, so you can decide to use this in 2 ways. So I'll be explaining the first one first. You're going to go up by 2.5 inches and you're going to connect it all the way down. So this is what we have actually on the pattern paper, or you can go ahead to start this from the waistline. It totally depends on what you want. So I'll go ahead and I will cut out this pattern first, and we'll go ahead to alter it. That is the second way of also cutting this pattern. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my second YouTube channel, which is Marky's Closet. We also do sewing and drafting tutorials on the channel. So after cutting, this is what I have. So next, another way of cutting this is to start your pattern from the waistline. If you don't want to start it immediately after your waist by 1 or 2 inches, so just go ahead, connect it from the waistline, and you're going to go ahead to cut this out. So moving over to the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements just like we did at the front. So the neckline of the back is 3 by 2 inches. I marked the zipper allowance. So the pattern for the front, we came down by 4 inches for the front pattern. So while we were drafting the lower part, we came up by 2.5. So you can decide to leave your pattern for the back at the waistline, or you can go ahead to add few inches to it, just like we did for the front pattern. So I'll go ahead to mark out the chest line of this pattern. So after that, I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So my nipple to nipple is starting from the zip point, that is the zip line. So after that, I'll go ahead to mark 1/2 inch on both sides, and I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect. So after connecting this, I'm just going to go ahead to mark it out with my marker. So after I'm done marking it out, the next step is to go ahead to impute my body measurement. At the bust, mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. There's no dart intake there. At the under bust, mark your under bust circumference, replace the dart intake and mark your sewing allowance. At the waistline, go ahead to mark your waist circumference, measure the dart intake, replace it and mark your sewing allowance. Now go ahead to connect your pattern. So this is actually a back pattern I had already, and it's just for a basic back pattern. You can also use it for a bustier, a corset, any pattern of your choice. So I'll come down by 1 inch from that point, and I'm going to go ahead to connect it down to my nipple to nipple line, and I'll go up by 1/2 inch or 0.3, and I will shade it out. Go in by 1/2 inch from your zipper line and connect it all the way. So for your pattern for the back, if you don't want yours to stop at the waist, just like I said, go ahead to add few inches to it. So after this, I'll just go ahead. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, and you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. See you in my next video. Thanks.